Appreciate you coming in to talk to our agency force. As we went through and discussed launching this webinar series, James, this is something I think it's a passion project for both of us, is adding external value to our agent partners. I think everybody here likes using Attune for different reasons, whether it's our products, how easy it is to quote on the portal, some of the additional features we do after a bind or a quote, all really helpful things. But as we see technology improving and scaling on a monthly, daily basis here, we're really passionate and excited to get to know our agents better, what your needs are, so we can understand how we can better help you scale and grow day to day.
Absolutely. I think I love the idea for kind of just this session. And I think, Brennen, what you said is something that, from day one, I think was a goal of ours and a hope of ours. But as we've been on this journey of building Attune, I have this belief that we should be able to do so much more than just help you when you have a customer who says, I need insurance, and then we can get you that quote and you can bind it. And then we all know that the post bind, sort of those 12 months leading up to renewal, is where a lot of work can happen. And so we know that that's uber important, and getting that right and continuing to get it right, continue to make it better. But my hope is that we can find other ways to also make your days easier, to help you do the other things that you have to do to run and manage your book of business, your agencies. And so I think this is a great way for us to start that dialogue. And I think, my one ask would be to make this interactive. We'll do the best that we can while we're chatting, to look at what's going on in the chat. But Morgan can help us as well. So as we start discussing this, it's really around my goal here, not just for today, but for this series, and for times where you hear from your account manager, or you hear from someone else at Attune, is so we can learn and we can continue to learn more about ways that we can help you in your day-to-day, and help you provide that advice and the products that your customers need.
Well said. Awesome. So Morgan, if we can go on to our agenda here, James and I will introduce ourselves, talk a little bit more about really what we're getting at here with the series of webinars we're going to be running. I do want to just take a second to reiterate what James said. We really want participation here, as we think about, a tuning up, whether it be automations or leveraging AI within your agency, anything technology related. Let us know what you think. Let us know what you need, because we're excited to curate some content for you throughout the rest of the year. And so, without further ado, James, do you mind introducing yourself, telling people a little bit about you and how you got here to Attune?
Sure. So great to be with you all. As Brennen said, I'm James. I started Attune a little over 6 years ago now. And for me, it was really sort of a natural extension of some things that I had been doing. And I will spare you the boring details of my career, because it's just, quite frankly, not that interesting. But directly before starting Attune, I was lucky to join a company called On Deck when it was about 50 people, and very early on in the journey there, where we looked at small business lending. And we built a platform, a product, and then ultimately, distribution and a customer experience around trying to help small businesses get the capital that they needed to run and grow their business, and do that very efficiently, very quickly, in an automated way. And I was really lucky to be part of that team. But really, I was lucky to focus on small businesses, right? I was able to really fall in love with small businesses and get to learn about them and visit them and understand that they're the backbone of our country. I wish I could have told you I was smart enough to figure that out before my time at On Deck, but I wasn't. So as I started thinking about what I might do after On Deck, and I got connected with some people and started thinking about insurance, I got really excited about, could we try to take some of the things that we learned from what went well and what we built, and some of the things that, quite frankly, didn't go so well, and could we try to think about that and apply it to small commercial insurance? And so, that was how Attune got started. I feel really fortunate to still be here, kind of 6+ years and still growing. And I think, as hopefully you all know, and Brennen can explain, since day one, we really asked small businesses, what do you want? How can we make a great insurance experience? And the thing that we heard from every single one of them is they really wanted a trusted advisor. Insurance is complicated. And so from day one, our goal has been, how can we at Attune, by building you a platform and building you products and building you tools, help you serve your small business customers better? That was our mission at the beginning. It's our mission today, and hopefully it'll still be our mission in 6 years from now when we do another one of these.
Thanks, James. And from my perspective, I think y'all have really, I guess we have really hit a home run on this. But I first encountered Attune in early 2019. I owned an independent agency here in St. Louis, Missouri. We had kind of just gotten over the hump of figuring out how to be successful, really how to leverage technology to save time and increase our revenue generating activities. So, James, you said it. I've seen Attune on both sides, and I think it speaks pretty highly of what I think about Attune, that, when I decided to sell the agency, I really was excited to jump in the trenches here at Attune. So I'm Brennen Grone. I'm the head of account management. You might kind of recognize me from the cyber webinars. I did shave that crazy Grizzly Adams beard of mine, but same guy. So excited to be here. James, I think when we had discussed this probably 6 to 12 months ago, it really stemmed out of a conversation where I was explaining how we went from a struggling small independent agency to being one of the top producers in our market here in St. Louis. And for me, it was really having this ability to work smarter, not harder. I think we hear that a lot, but I spent so much time working in my business every day that I wasn't ever really able to come up for air and work on the business. And by leveraging some great technology tools that were free or low cost at the time, I was able to scale really quickly and become profitable in just a couple of months once we leveraged technology well. So that's really where we got started here.
Well, I think before go on, I think there was a thing that said there was going to be a fun fact. So I think, Brennen, you have to share a fun fact.
Okay, I'll share one if you share one.
Yeah, sounds good. You can go first.
Okay, deal. So I'm an Ole Miss alumni. It's just about 5 hours south here, St. Louis. And the last 2 years I was at Ole Miss, somehow I got a buddy to talk me into it, and I was a flair bartender. So maybe James, next time I'm out in New York, you guys can twist my arm hard enough that I'll flip some bottles around. But that was a fun skill I learned from
That's a great skill.
23.
I'm not sure how I don't know that yet and how we haven't utilized it yet, but we will definitely utilize it.
I might regret bringing that up.
Yes, I think so. And then so I had a fun fact, but I think my fun fact changed about, let's see, it's 1:15 now. So about 17 minutes ago, my fun fact is that I changed my shirt right before this, because as I got on, I realized Brennen and I were wearing almost the exact same shirt. And so I think that the sad thing there is it might be a fun fact for me, but it might be a sad state of affair for you, Brennen, because I've never once been called fashionable in my life. So, I'm not sure what that means for you, but that
makes two of us.
That was pretty fun. So
that was fun. Good stuff. So, hey, I think we've touched on it a little bit, James, but we definitely put this slide up here purposefully. When we say what is Attune Your Agency, we really want to set up a setting here where we can have an open discussion with our best, most engaged agency partners who are here to understand, what do you struggle with day to day? What goes on inside the office when the phone's ringing and you have a quote to do and you have a couple of policies to go bind that's slowing you down and keeping you from what you do best? James, do you have anything to add there? Sorry to catch you mid drink.
No, I think that's exactly it. And I think that, because I think like one of the things that we can talk about today, and I think that we want to highlight is in many ways like kind of demystify some technology that's out there. And thank you. Somebody just changed my name. I realized I use your link, Brennan. So we're both Brennan. I'm James in blue. Brennen is Brennen in the pinkish shirt.
I got you, James.
Thank you. So I think that one of the things that we can do is try to demystify some of the technology that's out there, and then talk about, how we might bring that to bear to help you in your day-to-days, whether that's, kind of through the core portal or in other ways that we could explore, because that's kind of our core competency is if we see sort of a challenge or something that's taking too much of your time or something that's very repetitive. It's like, can we try to incorporate that into the platform along with, and I see some of the questions and we can certainly talk about it as we go around, continuing to try to increase our appetite, bring more products, bring some products back, quite frankly, to the portal.
Absolutely. And hey, keep the questions rolling in. We'll be sure to leave a good portion at the end where we can really have a good Q&A. So keep them rolling in. Morgan does a great job of making sure we don't miss anything. So we'll be sure to answer everything as they come in. Great. So Morgan, do you mind going to the next slide? We can look at my cheesy quote here. Awesome. So here's a photo of me with my now 5-year-old. And this was like the day before we opened my independent agency here in St. Louis. I had closed up shop at my State Farm place a couple of days prior. So it was a chaotic time going captive to independent. And, when I look back on this time now, I really wish I had had somebody to teach me automation, scaling technology on the fly, because I learning it the hard way was hard. I made tons of mistakes. I think one thing I love about Attune, James, I hope you don't mind a shameless plug here, but one of our core values at Attune is that failures are tuition. And I look back on this time and know that all the mistakes that we made in my agency really taught us good lessons, even if they were hard. But if anybody hasn't made those mistakes yet, I'd love it if this series could help you course correct and leverage technology better. I had mentioned this a little bit prior, but for me, it was really learning what the revenue generating activities were, what the non-revenue generating activities were, and then how much of those non-revenue generating activities I could automate. If we really simplify this, that was kind of the core of what I solved for between late 2018 and the end of 2019. And then really for me, the other focus was like narrowing in on what we were great at. Because what we know is in your markets, in your local IA markets, competition can be fierce. And so as we go through, you want to make sure that, your quoting and the coverage you're providing, the speed that you're providing the quote is better than the competitor around the corner. And I think a lot of what we talk about today and in the future series can really help you balance that speed, accuracy, and value. Awesome. So, moving on here, I think the next thing we wanted to do, and Morgan, did you want to launch the poll here?
I can if you'd like me to, but I don't have to. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, let's grab our first poll question.
Sounds good. All right, we've got 2 questions in poll number 1. You good to launch, Brennen?
Let's go. And I'll read these out as we go through because, as I'm sure we all know, there's tons of options for a tech stack in your agency. Automations can really be key. as we talk through the tech stack. So as we are talking about automation, we put some general ideas up here, things that we could work on automating for you. But if you could jump into the poll, what's the number one thing you want to automate in the agency? Like if we could do it tomorrow, what would you want to automate? What's the worst thing or the biggest time suck for you and your employees? I'm definitely not surprised to see non-pay on the rise here. There is nothing more frustrating than working really hard to get a client the right policy. It's the right fit. It's the right coverage. It's within their budget. Everything works. And then you're in month 3 and you see that little icon on the Liberty website that says, they didn't pay their bill. You got to call them. And then, the second question here is definitely going to help us just kind of gauge what you're utilizing within the agency. I know some people like to keep things really simple with their technology. Less is more, whereas other folks like to have a different system for everything because it can help you specialize, whether it's content curation, drip campaigns, SEO, lead generation. There's many things that folks use day to day. We got a Vertafore user here with the QQ. Great system. I know different people have different thoughts and feelings about Vertafore, but they own a ton of the options out here in the market, right? QQ is just one of them. They own AMS 360. They acquired Agency Zoom last year, which has always been one of my favorites. So good stuff. Awesome. Let's give another 10, 15 seconds on the poll. And thanks everybody. Hey, if you want to chime in what systems you like in the chat as we go along, would love to see that. As our internal technology team is incredible and we can absolutely work with them on, any kind of enhancements or automations over time. We built this out. Easy links. Great. We'll go ahead and end this poll. Thanks so much, everybody, for participating, and feel free to keep stuff rolling into the chat as we go.
Yeah, and I think we can share. So there was a question if we could share the polls, and we will. So
you should be able to see the results on the screen right now, but I can also send out these results in the email follow-up.
Good stuff. Well, James, I kind of wanted to kick off our chat portion here with a question for you. And AI's on mind for everybody, right? Like when I scroll LinkedIn, I think half of the posts every day are some new AI tool or plugin for Chrome. Yep. So, James, as our tech startup guy here, what do you see as the biggest challenge for the small retail agent in the coming years with this evolution of AI?
Well, I think it's a great question. I might reframe it a little bit, but I think like before doing that, I think the most important thing with anything is to try to really sort of just simplify what do we mean when we say, AI or artificial intelligence, which is, kind of it used to be called machine learning. Before that, it was just called analytics. So I think that it can sound very big, it can sound very overwhelming, but at the end of the day, I think what we're seeing is just honestly a very natural evolution of kind of what you're able to do with technology, like what a software engineer is able to build. And right, if you think about it, a software engineer writes code and then it needs machines to execute that code. And you're seeing improvements in both of those pretty exponentially. And so what you're seeing is you can just do much more complicated, complex tasks much faster because of the improvements in both the way that you're writing the code and the ability to run them on multiple machines that are getting faster and faster and faster. And so, when I think of artificial intelligence, and I think about, they talk about what computers are able to do what humans are able to do. Well, one of the things that humans are able to do really well is pattern recognition, right? And remember our experiences and sense that out. And for me, that's really kind of what is going on. And that pattern recognition is now extending beyond what you might write or be able to have in data, right? So if somebody is reading a post or listening to a call, they can now get inflection, right? So they're starting to be able to like incorporate things that are really human, which is, if I'm talking to you like this, it means one thing. If I'm talking to you like this, it means a different thing, right? Even though the text was the same. And so, and the one way to maybe simplify this is early on in Attune's days, I talked about sort of a Yelp profile, right? And I think if you think about restaurant reviews, they're a really good example to show what sort of like AI has been able to do, which is, at the beginning, you might just have a star review, right? And, in the early days, some of us might have incorporated those into models that were predictive about, is this a good or is this a well-run business, right? And you might look at their Yelp star review. But then you started being able to, with the reviews and some technology, being able to start actually looking and reading reviews. And it wasn't that they would really interpret them, but the early models there would pick out keywords, right? So if it's a restaurant and somebody says, I got sick, well, that would be a red flag if you're looking at it. Or if they say happy hour, that tells you something about what they do. But now, you could then go beyond that. And as I said, get trends and sentiment and sort of understand, okay, how are, the last 5 reviews compared to reviews a year ago? And that's all been going on. And then I think what you've seen happen now, especially with AI, is because you can do so many things so quickly and the models can understand so much. Now you might do all that, but say, hey, I want to compare it to the closest 50 similar restaurants in the same city or in the same state. And by the way, if you wanted to do it, you could do it for every restaurant in America. And, the time that used to take would have been years is, now down to days. And at some point it'll be down to minutes and seconds. And so, when we talk about, AI, I think that's what it means to me. And the opportunity I think we have is when you talk about it for what it means for all of us and how we collectively serve small businesses, is it a threat or is it a tool? Right. And I very much think it's a tool that can help us try to do things more efficiently. Right. So, one of the things that we've started to do is to really look at what some of these tools that are out there can do. And, if you think about it, trying to understand sort of is a very specific question within or outside of an appetite. Right. And it might take a human being, whether that's, one of you all or somebody on our team, a long time to read a policy document and find which page it's on and try to really get into it. Well, that happens in a matter of less than seconds with some tools. And so I think, there's a real opportunity for us to try to understand, what are things, as you kind of said it early on, Brennen, are going on day to day where there's repetitive tasks that that we might be able to sort of say, okay, can we start using and leveraging some of the technology that's out there to really automate them or make them much easier? And I think the reason why I think it's a tool is I don't think it's going to, ever is a long time. But if we think about the next, 4 to 5 years, I don't foresee this technology coming in and replacing the trusted advisor part of the relationship. And that advice, that true advice that somebody needs, because the advice is really what's right for my business. And if you don't understand that person and what's right for that person, you can't give them what's right for their business. And that's a relationship. And so, what I think we can do, our goal should be to, always try to take those tasks that distract from really providing that advice and getting to know your clients and their businesses and understanding what is the right amount of risk for them to take and what is the right amount of risk for them to make sure that they're covered in their policies. I don't see that going away in the near future at all. So that's why I very much view it as kind of an opportunity. And you think about chatbots or what have you. they can just take some of that work that really isn't that core foundation of advice and relationship. And, we should be trying to explore what that is and then testing it in the portal. And if it works for a handful of folks that we're working with, then we can roll that to everyone.
Yeah, very well said. And, I think like probably a lot of us, myself included, are happy and nodding our heads in agreement. One thing I noticed within my years in agency was the relationships were the key to retention. As we think through, the first policy, there's some sales acumen that goes into that. You definitely need to find a hook or some betterment or some value to add. But if you do a great job and build trust with that client, they're going to come back to you even when somebody else is calling and prospecting them. And that true relationship, rapport building, understanding who people are and what's most important to them can really build you that healthy book of business that's really hard to shake and take elsewhere. Yeah, great deal. Well, I think here, if we could just pause for a minute, Morgan, I know we had a second poll because I want to learn a lot from y'all today. We've got 3 more webinars to do. And, I had told James going into this, I'm really excited to do this, but to do it well, I want some participation from the crowd so we can really curate things. So Morgan, I think we're ready for our next poll. And when the questions pop up, I'll kind of read through them and chat about it a little bit. And Charles, I just saw that comment. I'm actually going to read it out loud because it's funny and awesome. Not sure, I might be dating myself here, but there was a time when some of us independents were frightful of the internet. Absolutely, we will persevere. People love people and love relationships, and I think you're spot on there. I wrote this poll question of how documented is your sales process? Different people write their business plan differently and train themselves or producers differently. So how robust is your sales process? Do you have a written playbook? Do you just talk to folks in your office and refine on the fly? Are you a whiteboard fan? You can see my whiteboard behind me. I'm definitely a whiteboard method guy. Or feel free if there's anything else that comes to mind, definitely drop it in the chat. And then the second one, which is really important and exciting, we'll talk about a little later in the year. How do you find, identify, and then prospect commercial clients in your market? I know by and large, we're going to see a lot of folks talk, referrals here. I actually see referrals trending well, along with networking. We do any door knocking. If you do any door knocking in 2023, honestly, good for you. I had deployed it a couple of times until COVID hit and was surprised how effective that could be, popping in and catching a business owner. Thanks for the participation here. That's a good one, Michael. And Ariel, good to see you again. Take care, my friend. That is, I just have to note, we sit here and we talk about relationships, and Ariel's a great agent down in Florida. I can't remember how we met, but we met many years ago and kind of crossed paths here and there in different groups. And I think that's one of the great things about what we do is getting to know other folks in the industry, building best practices. I just have to note, he was actually somebody who gave me advice in 2018 to start learning about automations. And it really served me well. So it's really special to see him here today. Awesome. Well, hey, thanks everybody. It looks like we have everybody answered the poll, so that's great. Awesome. A lot of word of mouth sales process here. I get that. You're walking around, maybe the floor in your office or listening to some calls and, hey, James, that's probably not how I'd explain rental car reimbursement. Let's try this.
I wouldn't, I hope nobody works for Zoom Info.
Yeah, a little empty there. That's cool. Good deal. Well, thanks everybody for the participation there. That'll really help us make sure future webinar content's great.
So Brennen, I guess maybe just if I can ask you a question, but I think with all this input and, kind of with where you sit now, you used to having your own agency, sort of understanding the day-to-day, better than most, certainly better than me, but also now being, having been at Attune for a while. So, kind of understanding the technology and the way we think about things. And, we just ran internally, so everyone knows, we just ran a hackathon where we just challenged everyone, not our technology teams, but to just, think about an AI tool they were using and try to sort of think about a problem that was, related to what we do, that they could solve with it. And it was really fascinating. So, I mean, how are you thinking about the ways in which, technology and AI can really be leveraged to, help our agents, kind of grow their businesses? Because that's ultimately what we're all trying to do here.
That's the name of the game. Grow that book, retain policies, keep adding new ones. Hey, I'm going to give you two answers. I'm going to give you a really short one, and then I'll expand on it. The number one way an independent insurance agent can leverage technology today to grow and scale their business: create a free Zapier account. Zapier is an incredible tool for automation. It's a free tool that is a pretty robust tool in the free version. I don't think I'm sharing any proprietary information here by saying this. We heavily use Zapier at Attune for different automations we run internally between different systems within our tech stack. And I can't emphasize enough that, for people like us, Zapier, Zapier, is an incredible tool that's very user-friendly. You don't have to write any code. You can just type in simple pieces of logic, and it can allow you to do a lot of things at once. It takes a lot of time. I want to expand on that a little bit. No problem, Frost. One of the things I noticed very early on in my agency was I needed some different systems to work efficiently. I was running AMS 360 as my agency management system. It was a little older as far as AMSs go, but the reporting was good. It worked really well for accounting. It was Ivan's download capable. It was everything we needed at the time. But I also needed a CRM because the AMS didn't really work well as a CRM. So I ended up getting an additional tool. And then of course we had a comparative rater for personal lines. And next thing I knew, just to be compliant day to day, I found myself manually inputting notes and customer data into all three systems. And it was just a huge time suck. And if you didn't do it every time, reporting broke and data wasn't clean. And so the first, and I'd argue still one of the best automations I built myself right out of the gate, was an intake form. It was pretty basic, but I allowed the zaps, basically when I hit submit on my intake form and dropped all the customer info in there. Next thing I knew, it was in AMS 360. It was in Easy Links, and that was also in my CRM. So cut my data entry time down by 66%, and allowed me to do what I did better, which was quickly quote the business and then go call my prospect back. So that was very quickly adding, 10 minutes a day to each time I took in information from a client. Now, James, you said something earlier that I really want to hit on, because one thing I think we all love about being an insurance agent is you don't always have to work all the time. And you had mentioned chatbots earlier, which is something that I was able to deploy a little bit later in my agency tenure. It was launched on both my website and my business Facebook page. And what was really nice was we would drive clients to the landing pages to get in touch with us. And we didn't have to be working on chat or pulling the phone to have a conversation with the prospect and get the proper information to run a quote for them. So by the time we took advantage of these tools, instead of talking to the customer before quoting, and then calling them back at a scheduled time to hopefully close the business same day. We didn't have to have the first conversation, which again, added time, added value. And once we had the logic built out, I would get comments from people all the time. I couldn't believe you were on Facebook Messenger so late talking to me about an auto quote last night. And that's a great sign that, you've built out logic well in your tooling, and that you have these tools out there working for you. So again, you can focus on what you do best.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. And I think with just, some of the things that we're seeing here, which I'm thinking, just if you look at some of the polls is, there's lots of different ways that all of you all who are in your local markets and know your markets and then come to our platform, there's different things that you have to do to be successful in your markets. But it's trying to find, like Brennen, what you're talking about, those points of commonality, right? Where no matter how you get your lead, you do have to try to get the information consolidated in a single format. And as you sort of said, like, one of the things that we've tried, in the early days of Attune, we kind of took it down. It didn't have a real impact then, but could we try to give you an intake form for that? And then could we try to understand, okay, yes, if you're going to come to us, like you sort of said, Brennen, we understand at Attune that we're not going to be your solution for everything. There's been a lot of questions, and I want to certainly comment on new products and how we're thinking about it, because we are working on new products and we do want to bring you more products. Brennen asked me that at least twice a day. But the reality is we're never going to be 100% of kind of what you need. And so is there a way where we could think about, hey, if you start with us and we aren't unfortunately able to get the right product or the right product at the right price to your customer, can you then take that information in a digestible format and reuse it with somebody else? And I think that we're trying to think through things that way, right? And I think that we're open to sort of that feedback of understanding that what we do has to sort of fit in with maybe your broader ecosystem of what you're doing. So I just think that's something for us to think about, and as you give us feedback, and if there's things that we can do and build, I just wanted everyone to know we're conscious of that and working on that.
Thanks for sharing that, James. And I think I missed this earlier, but I'm thinking of the poll questions and what you just talked about. Attune really is focused on what the agents need. And I remember I bound my first policy on the platform in 2019, and I had that moment 90 days in, where I got a call from my insured and they said, "Hey, I think I didn't pay my monthly bill. I messed up." And I was like, "How did you know?" And they said, "Oh, Attune emailed me a link to pay because I was past due." And I thought to myself, that's really cool. And I wish my other carrier partners did that. And I ended up working through some carriers to get like some payment links where I could automate that myself. But that was that really first big moment I had where I thought, like, wow, like this Attune thing is pretty cool. Like the quoting was great. It was fast. The bind process was quick and easy. But knowing that I had like a GA partner on the back end helping me, not only with like the easy stuff, like the direct bill, the immediate deck page, I wasn't waiting on a production underwriter to send me anything. But the fact on the back end, they said, "No, Brennen, we want to help you keep this business on the books," was a really cool, helpful tool. So, James, like feather in the cap here, for many years, Attune has been focused on adding value to agents outside of just speed of quoting and ease of binding. And I love that we're talking about adding more features like that long term.
Trying. I know we're kind of getting to the end here, so maybe let me just quickly comment on new products, which is we are thinking about adding new products to the portal, and we're working on some of that stuff. I think the first ones that you'll see will probably be like the end of this year, early next year, as we can build it, but we also have to unfortunately work with State Department of Insurances and get their approval to bring new products to bear. But then I also want to specifically talk about Florida. Like, look, I understand we've had a lot of changes there, and you know what I hope you all know, and you've seen it in our communications, is we're doing the best we can to just be transparent, because it is a really tough market, and getting reinsurance capacity and capacity for our product has been a challenge there. Obviously, you know, we've had to make changes. So you know, I don't have a clear answer on when BOP would be back in Florida. It is not something that we've forgotten about, but it's obviously something that we have to do in partnership with our capital partners. But then I also think we're thinking about it more holistically, right? You know, which is, you know, we would love to bring our BOP back in a more wholesome way, but we don't know when that would happen. But so there might be a way that we can solve it with a different product, right? And so as we get towards the end of this year, we will certainly think about that. And, you know, as we have a clear roadmap, and as we have something that's specific and that we can communicate, you know, we promise we'll share that as quickly as we can. And then, you know, this was in the chat, but, you know, what we've tried to do is to make sure that, you know, even if you were writing BOP with us before, that you understand that we do have a full portfolio of other products, and hopefully we can still help in that fashion. But, you know, I say that understanding that property is the coverage that's most needed and most scarce in Florida. So we're working on it. I wish I had something more concrete for you, but wanted to make sure I shared that.
Thanks for the update there, James. And I'd just be remiss if I didn't miss a time to shamelessly plug that we have a great Hiscox promotion going on right now. If we're talking about a non-BOP product here. Sure. Definitely log in and quote some GL today, because there's a lot of extra cash on the table. It can't hurt to run a quote. We all know how quick and easy it is. So
we also have a great flood product.
Great flood product.
Everyone in Florida should have flood insurance.
If it rains, it can flood, right?
Yeah.
And I put a little poll up here. Mary asked a question about how effective email marketing has been for small new agencies. So if people want to answer that, they can.
Email marketing, yeah. And Mary, you know, to quickly hit on that for you, what we see on marketing campaigns, and Morgan, you're no stranger to this either, the more targeted your marketing campaign can be, the better. So, you know, I think earlier on in our webinar here, I had discussed, if you can narrow your focus within the commercial space into areas that you know you're good at, of course, you're going to have a higher success rate. And the same theory here applies with your marketing campaign. You know, instead of a more generalized campaign about like home and auto, one thing I did well that actually, I know he's gone, I'll stop talking about it, but that Ariel Rivera introduced me to was marketing to, it was personal lines focused, but marketing to teachers. We had these great marketing campaigns, and a lot of our carriers offered discounts on premiums to teachers. And so we ran these great personalized campaigns. They were warm, they were fuzzy. They talked about how we appreciated them supporting all the kids in our market. And we were really successful in those because we had that targeted population, and much higher open rates, much better click-throughs. So, you know, in the short term, if you can narrow that into a specific segment or product, I think you'll see a lot more efficacy. Thanks for running that poll, Morgan.
And to answer your question, John, yes, everyone who has registered for this webinar will receive an email either later today or earlier tomorrow with the recording. And I'll try to get together some of these poll questions and responses so you can see how everyone's feeling. I
saw a great question about 20 minutes in that I don't want to skip over, from Alejandro, asking about commercial auto in California. And, you know, hey, there's no question about it. Right now, Attune doesn't have a commercial auto product. I know commercial auto is generally nationwide, regardless of state, can be a tough one, especially when the fleets get a little bit bigger. So while we don't have anything in the roadmap for this, know that I probably twice a year bug James about, you know, hey, there's this cool new carrier out of this state. Like, you think we want to take a look at them? So, you know, to what James said earlier, we are regularly looking at what our agents need, what products are available in the market, and how we can support you. So while we don't do that now and don't have anything in the pipeline, I appreciate you bringing it up today, nonetheless.
Maybe I'll just say thank you because I appreciate all the feedback. It was really awesome to join you all, and thank you, Morgan, for setting it up, and Brennen for entertaining us all.
It was a pleasure. Thanks for being here, James. It was fun to have you.
Yeah, it was nice to chat with these two twins of insurance, and I will be sending out this email later. Brennen and I will kind of go through all these responses and see what folks are most interested in learning, and we will announce the next webinars in this series in order to address the things that you all need the most support from Attune in. So thank you so much for attending, and we're excited to see you at the next one. Thanks, James and Brennen. You both are great, and so glad I got to listen to this.
Thanks again, Morgan.
Thanks all.
Have a good day.